On the surface, it might seem that living a soft life and being productive are totally opposite concepts, but actually both of them are critical to living a truly balanced life that we love, where we can fulfill our potential. In this video, I'll talk about 5 productivity multipliers that we can weave into our lives to live a softer life while achieving those things that are really meaningful and really matter to us. Because living a soft life isn't just about laying on a beach all day for the rest of your life, because actually, if you're a bit like me, after about a month of laying on a beach doing nothing, you'd probably get a bit bored and be searching for a sense of purpose, for meaning, for some kind of goal to move towards. And all of this is very much possible within the framework of living a soft life. We just need to approach productivity with a different perspective. And in this video, I will talk through all the tools that have really helped me in that journey, and I hope they can help you as well. So if you're a bit like me and you want to be productive and have a purpose in life and find meaning, while also creating spaciousness for softness, for ease, for joy, then this video was made for you. If you're new here, my name's Izzy. I'm a Cambridge graduate and a doctor working in London. Without further ado, let's dive in. Firstly, what is a soft life and how does this fit into this whole framework of productivity? Living a soft life is about putting our own needs first and recognizing them and making those healthy choices and decisions that support our well-being to preserve our energy. It sort of includes ideas around adopting an anti-struggle mindset. If we don't have to struggle, don't, and stop ignoring our own needs and instead start tuning into them and tending to them through self-care and putting yourself first. In the same way that on an airplane with the safety briefing, they always say, oh, you should put your own oxygen mask on first before trying to help others. By putting ourselves first, this actually puts us in a position where we can truly support and serve the people around us. One thing I often think about when I'm making this kind of video is that I really want to support you to really put this into practice. And to help you with that, I've created a totally free 3-day email guide, which will send you an email each day for 3 days with activities to support you to really put this into practice in your own life. So feel free to check this out below. And I'm also finally getting back into Instagram after a break, so feel free to follow me over there for more tips on soft productivity and balanced personal development and all of this good stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first tip is that enjoyment is efficiency. And what do I mean by this? What I mean is that when we are enjoying things, when we're in a good mood, having a good time, finding the joy in what we're doing, we are just much more efficient and effective at whatever we are doing. I also see this as the antidote to burnout almost, because if we are enjoying something, for example, playing a video game, we can play that video game for 12 hours a day and still not feel burned out or like we're having to force ourselves to do it, and still enjoy it. And then the next day feel super ready to dive into another video gaming session. Whereas if we have to write, let's say, a 10-page essay for medical school about some niche drug that you're not really particularly interested in, and you're having to drag your heels and drag yourself to work on this essay, even working for 2 hours might feel exhausting. And so actually by finding the enjoyment and the joy and the lightness and the ease in whatever we're doing, this makes it so much softer, so much more enjoyable to work on, and also boosts our efficiency and our sustainability in how long we can actually sustain doing this kind of activity for. One question I often like to ask myself is, how can I enjoy this present moment 5% more? And in almost every single moment in our lives, if we ask ourselves this question, we can discover it within ourselves to enjoy it just 5% more. Because 5%, it's not a huge amount, it's just a tiny amount, but it shows that we actually have a level of influence over our internal experience and empowers us to think, oh, actually, if I can enjoy this 5% more, then why not 10%? And another question that helps with this is, how can I be 5% more present? I find that when I'm more present with something, I immediately enjoy it more. I notice the small details. For example, I might notice, oh, this leaf is actually really beautiful. Or I might think, oh, actually the fairy lights in the background, they've got a really cute like bokeh. I actually don't know how to pronounce that word, but they've got a really cute look on the camera. That looks really nice. Or I might think, oh, the sky is so blue today. I love that. You just start to notice these details when you're more present. And so I invite you to try asking yourself this question when you're in a bit of a slump. One example of this whole enjoyment mindset in action is, for example, tidying up your workspace. If, let's say, you've got some piles of stuff on your desk, there's some like random pens and paper, you know how it gets sometimes, and you're in an anti-enjoyment mindset and you're just feeling a bit done with everything, you're not enjoying it, you might be thinking, oh my God, my desk is just such a tip. I hate having to deal with all this mess and clutter. Maybe I should just dump it all on the ground. I just really can't be asked to deal with this right now. Alternatively, if you're in an enjoyment mindset, you might be thinking, oh wow, actually like I can put away all these things and organize my stuff, and oh, my desk is actually like quite cute and clear now, and I feel much more motivated, and actually maybe put on some music in the background and enjoy the process. And it's a completely different experience internally. And by just making that little mindset shift and noticing moments where we can experience joy, it helps us to really embody a sense of softness when it comes to getting things done. If a certain task always just seems to feel heavy and unenjoyable, the first step is to try to bring joy into it, try to notice the joy, try to put on some music in the background, try to make it a bit more fun. Or if that's not possible, either just remove the task from your to-do list, if that's possible, or substitute it with another version of the task. So for example, if you really don't like going to, let's say, a high-intensity fitness class, maybe substitute it for a Pilates class, which is a bit more chill, a bit more low impact, but still a great form of exercise. Having fun and enjoying and playing at something is a direct route to increasing our productivity. And I'd like to finish off this first point by saying that if you're in a bad mood or a negative mindset, can you just invite yourself to begin again right now? Just think, I'm just going to clear the slate. I'm just going to begin again and approach this with fresh eyes, a fresh mindset of positivity and enjoyment. The second productivity multiplier is devotional identity alignment. Let me explain what this is. This is essentially transforming discipline into devotion with identity alignment. And there's actually a lot of evidence behind this. There is a psychological theory called identity-based motivation theory. This was developed by Professor Daphne Oyserman. This is a quote directly from Oyserman's 2015 paper. People interpret situations and difficulties in ways that are congruent with currently active identities, and they prefer identity congruent to identity incongruent actions. However, when action feels identity incongruent, the same difficulty suggests that the behavior is pointless and not for people like me. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with our identity. But essentially, to simplify this down, what she's saying is that we interpret the experiences in our lives based on the identities that we have, and we prefer actions that are consistent with and aligned with our identities, and we move towards those, and we move away from actions that don't feel aligned to that. A study done in a school where there were two groups, one control group where they just continued as normal, and one group where the students were encouraged to think about the type of student they'd like to be in terms of their identity and how this was linked to their future outcomes. And the students in the intervention group had better grades, they spent more time on their homework, they had better attendance, and they even had better standardized test scores. And this impact persisted for years after the study intervention was done. Beyond education, similar studies have shown the impact of identity shifts in terms of health, savings, planning, productivity. So many different things are impacted by our identity. And this is fantastic news for us because we can achieve personal transformation right now in our lives by integrating our desired actions and outcomes into our identity of ourselves. So for example, instead of thinking, I need to exercise because I have to stay fit, think of it instead as, I am someone who loves and values fitness. And then exercising becomes kind of naturally from there. Several years ago, I essentially was self-sabotaging without even realizing it because I didn't understand the power of identity. And at one point, I identified as the kind of person who likes to go clubbing. I identified as the kind of person who doesn't do exercise or who is inflexible. And actually, instead of helping me, those identities were really holding me back and sabotaging me. And it was actually only about 4 years ago when I realized, actually, this is really not helping me. This is actually holding me back quite a lot. And then I actively shifted my identities to align with the person I wanted to become. And then I became that person. And honestly, this completely transformed my life. And now we get into the devotional aspect of it. Because for example, if you have the identity, I am someone who regularly goes to the gym, there are two ways that you can approach this. You can approach this with discipline, which is the traditional hustle culture, grind set, rise and grind kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm just gonna push myself and discipline myself into going to the gym. Or the softer life approach to it, which I've started to take on in my life over the last year or so, and I really love it. And I feel so much better about everything when I take this perspective, is thinking, I am devoted to being that person. I am devoted to this identity. I'm not disciplining myself into this identity. I am devoting myself to working on this thing with love and intention and joy and lightness. And that means that we have this mindset shift from something we have to do to something we get to do, to something that we are devoted to do for the sake of the person that I know that I am. Letting go of discipline also means softening your grip on fixed schedules. Instead, trusting that with your devotion to yourself and your new identity, you will consistently make choices that are in line with the person you are becoming. This opens up a lot of room for self-compassion. For example, if you had scheduled in a gym session on a certain day, but when it came to that day, you were actually feeling kind of ill, you were a bit under the weather with a cold, instead of feeling bad that you hadn't succeeded in disciplining yourself into going, even though you're not feeling well, you can view it as, because you're devoted to going to the gym, you didn't make it this time, but you know that you're still devoted and you're going to stay consistent in the future moving forwards as much as you can within the limits of self-compassion. Tip number 3 is the power of monotasking and the 80-20 rule. This is all about prioritization, because if we say yes to everything that comes in the door, we will be overwhelmed, which is not very aligned with living a soft life. Learning to say no to things is essential to protecting that spaciousness for softness and ease that we want in our lives. And so what's important is 2 filters that I love to use are firstly the hell yeah or no principle, which is that if something comes up, it's either a hell yeah or it's a no. If I'm a bit lukewarm about something, it's a no. And so I only keep the things that I'm really, really excited about, really passionate about, really devoted to. The second tool I like to use for this is the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, which is a very popular rule, which essentially states that 80% of the results that we want come from 20% of the work or the input that we put in, which means that actually by selecting our 20% that is the most impactful and moves the needle the most, we actually get 80% of what we wanted in terms of results, which is amazing. So that means that by focusing on just the hell yes, the things I'm really excited about, and this top 20% of needle moving things, we actually get the vast majority of the results that we actually wanted. And this way of prioritizing means that we're not overstretching ourselves, we're not pushing ourselves to overwork, we're trying to protect that balance between being productive versus maintaining that spaciousness. Once we've identified those priorities, I love to monotask. This is something I've been putting into practice over the last 6 months or so, which is essentially doing less to do more and slowing down to speed up. Instead of trying to multitask each day and have lots of different projects and splitting your focus on one thing at a time. A lot of this is actually psychological. It's almost like psychological gymnastics rather than anything that we do on our calendar, because it's probably likely that you usually are meant to be working on just one task at a time. But if you're anything like me, there's probably a billion other thoughts about the groceries and about this other task you have and this other project that had some deadline, all of these other thoughts that just come cascading in unwelcome. And so monotasking is where I make an active choice to disregard all of those excess thoughts that are not helping me, they're just distractions, and just focus in on the one thing that I'm working on right now. I've also personally found that mindfulness meditation has really helped with developing this focus muscle to really cut through the noise and laser focus into that one thing. By doing this, we're allowing our minds to operate at a slower rate almost and process less things at once. And this is very helpful for actually getting stuff done effectively. The 4th tip is to listen to your interoception. Interoception is essentially our internal bodily awareness of sensations. Our bodies and minds have a very deep evolutionary wisdom, and it's actually important for us to not ignore or override this. Humans of today, so you and me, we have evolved over millions of years, and a big part of that was being very connected to our internal sensations and our internal needs, because the only way that we would fulfill those needs is if we were made aware of them. Listening to that interoception, that internal knowledge that we have of our sensations, is really valuable, especially with things like natural physiological cycles, whether this is monthly cycles or even just the circadian rhythm and around one day, or if we're ill or tired or hungry or thirsty. Learning to tune into how our body is feeling and what it is really needing is so important. This allows us to work smarter by tuning into our bodily feelings, not just the time on the clock. Working according to our energy, not according to some arbitrary sense of time management, means that we can align our tasks with our natural ebb and flow of energy. This is so helpful for efficiency and also, critically, enjoyment, because enjoyment is efficiency. And if we're feeling good, feeling high energy, then we're much more likely to be able to enjoy what we're doing and do it well, while also honoring ourselves. One thing that I would highly recommend doing is to track your energy levels throughout the day or week or month to identify these patterns, because once you have that understanding of yourself, you can then schedule your most demanding tasks during your personal peak times of energy. So one action point here is to start an energy log and analyze that data to optimize your schedule, to create a more personalized and sustainable productivity system. For me, I know that I am most productive in the mornings and also late at night, which is a little bit inconvenient. So usually I try to make the most of my morning work session. I also know that I tend to have a bit of a slump just after lunch. So instead of trying to push myself to work through that, I now honor myself and say, actually, I'm going to go for a walk instead. I'll go get some natural sunlight and get some exercise and go for a walk in that time where I'm lower efficiency. The final tip is that health is wealth. I'm sure you've heard this a million times from your mother and your grandmother and everybody else on the internet. But if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. This quote is something I come back to again and again, because health is that foundation for all of our productivity and all of our soft life as well. It's literally the foundation for everything. I personally do a regular weekly check-in on my wheel of life about my holistic health. So how I'm feeling physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and also in terms of relationships and career too. When we're in good health, it's easier to enjoy life and move through it with softness and ease, opening the door for joy, efficiency, fulfilling our potential. For example, at university, if I'd spent the night out having some drinks and staying out late, the next day would feel like a real struggle. And as we know, living a soft life is about not struggling. It's about finding ways that feel easy and comfortable and natural, intuitive even. And it did not feel like anything was intuitive the day after a night out. On the flip side, if I took care of myself, I did some yoga, I meditated, I ate well, I got enough rest, saw a friend during my lunchtime walk. It's so much easier to jump out of bed with a spring in my step, feeling full of inspiration, like it's a great day. And it's so much easier to fill the day with that softness, ease, gratitude, all that good stuff. And beyond just feeling that sense of enjoyment, it's actually proven that when we're healthier and feeling good and well rested, we are more effective, we are more productive. The action point here is to develop a health routine where there are habits that you build in, there are things that you automate which make it easy to do all the health sustaining habits that you know that you need, whether that's exercise, a wind down bedtime routine, or journaling. Now, to put this all into practice, choose 2 action points that you can do right now to put this into practice and make this happen in your own life, and either write them in a comment down below or send them to me by email. Maybe even one of those action points is to sign up for the totally free 3-day email guide on soft life productivity, which is linked down below and will include journaling prompts and activities that will help you to actually figure out how to integrate this into your own life today. Speaking of journaling, if you enjoyed this video, I think you might like this video over here, where I share a bunch of strategies for transforming your life with proven evidence-based journaling techniques. I've personally been journaling for years and years now, and it has genuinely changed my life, my mental and emotional health, my self-understanding, all of that stuff. So if you're interested, you might want to check it out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!